saw an uptick in that. But back to your question, now you're starting to see the investors come back, especially now, not only just from numbers making sense because rates are at a half decent level and prices have come down, but you're also starting to see more municipalities, cities changing the ruling on adding additional units, laneway suites, garden suites. This is something our office was already seeing years ago.
Michael Zanzini for Better Mortgage Select. All right, so listen, man, we are back. Foreclosures, and so you're predicting and thinking that you're going to start seeing more.
Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, the cracks are starting to show in the market right now. People that have been leveraged to their eyeballs, there's really no other way out of it. You either are going to start to default if you can't find solutions, or you got to force sales. That it's just the nature of the game, right?
Yeah. I was out with a client just yesterday. I don't do a ton of real estate anymore, but there are some clients that, like, Gary, want to work with you. And so we were looking at some properties, and I'm seeing notices on doors, foreclosure, and they're like, whoa, this family lost their home. Like, yeah, this is what you're starting to see out there in the market, where people have bought homes that were at 2 million and now they're down to 1.6, 1.5, 1.4. Yeah. And how long do you continue to make those type of payments? Number one. And number two, where you're just like, well, what's the point of staying here? When is that value going to get back up there again? Is it going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, or is it 5 or 6 years, right? And so these are things that have happened before, and sometimes, like you said, people have short-term memories, and history happens, and it repeats. It doesn't always repeat, but it rhymes, and this is definitely rhyming. That's true. Rate cuts. What do you think is going to happen? Is it 2 more we've got this year?
Yeah, we got.
When are they?
The next one is October 29th, I believe, is the next one.
Okay.
That's the next one that we're all waiting for. It's funny. I was reading something on X on Twitter a couple days ago, and it was like some speculation that in the US, it's almost 100% guarantee that they are predicting they're going to get another cut.
Right.
So do I think we're going to get another cut? I believe there's another quarter point on the horizon for sure.
And then there's a second one happening in November.
Yes.
Do you remember the date on that one? Okay, that's fine. So, and then you think that second one in November, maybe another rate cut?
Obviously, I'm a firm believer. You got to see how things play out. Obviously, in this world, day by day, things change, right? But I do believe October, a lot of people are speculating we're going to see another cut.
Yeah.
Right. So positive signs ahead for sure. Give relief to a lot of Canadians, get people into the market. At the end of the day, what do we have right now? There's a lot of inventory on the market, right? So you need to spark the positive sentiment of people to get back and believing in real estate and get more transactions going. At the end of the day, there's transactions happening every single day, but there are a lot of people who are on the sidelines still waiting. You know what I mean? A lot of people got burned with the variable rates, with the rapid rise and increase, that have been burned and stung by that. You got people that want to get into the market, but they're like, maybe there is more room to go with prices coming down or rates coming down. But I always say to people, it's like, you just got to run your numbers and do with what you're comfortable with. And in my opinion, this ain't a sales pitch. It's like, if you're looking to get into the market, whether you're an investor, whether you're a first-time home buyer, or you're looking to sell, you may be selling not at top dollar, but you're also gaining on the acquisition stage here. So you got to see how it balances out. Like, what a better time, right? Yeah. That's my honest 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the rate cuts are coming. Here's, I think, maybe my concern is that right now there is some optimism. There's optimism because the rate cut is coming.
Of course.
The optimism is there may be a second rate cut coming. So let's say now we get down to 2%, okay? Because I think anything after 2%, now you're into emergency cuts. I think at that point in time, the optimism may fade away. And then people will now realize, well, hold on a second, this isn't going to save me. And I think people are holding on thinking that those rate cuts are going to save them when inflation is high. Like you talked about groceries and car payments and your mortgage. And some people have taken out second mortgages, maybe even third mortgages.
Of course.
And then you realize, what am I doing with this property? I got to walk away from it. I'm getting crushed. I can't do this anymore. And I think that is the fear that I might see and happen in 2026. I think it might get worse before it gets better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Same thoughts as well too.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But there's two sides of that conversation.
100%.
On this topic. It's the people that already own real estate that are just trying to hold on by a thread and trying to get a lifeline. And then there's the other people who are sitting on the sidelines who want to get into the market. Like, is there great opportunity for the people that want to get into the market? Yes, absolutely. 100%. Price have come down, more inventory, lower rates, higher pre-approvals, less stringent on the stress test, higher borrowing power. Good for you. But the people on the end that are just trying to see and salvage and hold on to real estate that they're leveraged on, it may get worse before it gets better. So there's two sides of both ends of the coin. Right?
What I love about that is what you're really saying is it's a win-win. Sure. Maybe for the other person getting out, but you're getting them out of their property, and then somebody who wants to get into the property is now able to, right? So yeah, it's unfortunate for a lot of people, but unfortunate for other people who can get into the market and people who have been sitting on the sidelines. Absolutely. And I do believe we're in that bottom part of the bowl. I think some people are waiting for this crazy crash to still happen. I think we'll say the downturn has already happened. I don't see it going down significantly more. I do believe there may still be some downward pressure for sure. But when you start taking a look at townhomes, semi-detached, detached homes, I don't think there's a whole lot more that they can come down, at least not for the semi in the towns. Maybe some of those detached homes, I think they'll still continue to come down a little bit more, but not a whole lot more.
Well, those are the desirable type of properties, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, you're seeing detached homes now, double car garage, 3,000 square foot in Oshawa, Durham region, going for under $1 million, $950,000. They've come down significantly from 1.4, 1.5, 1.6.
Absolutely. And we deal with such a vast array of clientele. Obviously, we work with a lot of investors. Yep. We also work with a lot of first-time home buyers. We work with a lot of end users, sell and buys and primary residence, cottages, stuff like that. And sometimes, just because we do such high volume and you see it, sometimes I have to stop when I'm looking at my computer or my desk when like my staff is sending me a file or a purchase or a realtor or client reaches out. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you're buying that for that? Like that. It's sometimes I just take a second take and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that probably was like $400,000 more like not long ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're seeing the steep discounts happening.
Absolutely.
What about cottages? You just touched on cottages. Are you seeing?
A lot of people are talking that kind of took a little bit of a dive for sure, that market, but just like anything as a whole, everything was super inflated. So like, what is really shocking? Do you know what I'm trying to say? You get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. It's like, okay, these crazy cottages were going for X and now they're here and they're taking a kicking on the back end, but we're still inflated on prices. So are we just kind of coming back to reality or to normalcy and getting back to like normal prices again? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, are you an end user? It's like a stock. It's not real until you sell. It's an unrealized gain or it's a loss. But if you can hold on to that real estate, have you lost anything? No. Right? But some people can't. Are you in the rental game? Can you make it work and carry this property? I do believe the people that can withstand this downwards pressure, you will come back on the other side. But unfortunately, you have both sides of the coin. There's some people that just can't and can't withstand it and holding on by a thread. And sometimes, and I mean this genuinely and respectfully, sometimes there's just nothing that you can do to help a client. It's, can you just withstand it? Or do you cut your losses and move on? And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. Like, I want to help get a second mortgage, give them a cash injection or consolidate that or refinance. But unfortunately, I'm great at what I do. I can't make a $700,000 property be worth $1 million to have that equity buffer to do what you got to do to give you a lifeline.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of some of my conversations that I have to have, unfortunately, on a weekly basis.
You just touched on something that I think that's important as well, too, is that cash injection, that second mortgage. And that's essentially what it is. It's a cash injection to give you 6 months, a year
and I
to get things to turn around.
and we help a lot of people with that.
Yeah. So that in a year's time, you're like, okay, cool. I maybe went back to school or I was doing some work on the property. Okay, now here's the money back, but you gotta have some type of a game plan. You don't want to put everybody and anybody
100%.
into those type of projects or products because it can put them into something even worse, in a worse situation. So you got to really understand everybody's situation, right? Stress test.
Yeah.
Do you think the stress test was a good thing here in Canada?
Yes and no. That's the best way I'm going to answer that question is yes and no, because at the end of the day, what is the stress test there for? It is there. Look what's happened. We got over the last couple of years, we had a massive amount of rate hikes, right? So technically speaking, when people are like, oh, this is crazy, I can't afford it. Well, technically when you were qualifying at your rate plus 2%. You know what I mean? And do I believe it is a good thing? Yes, because it does give you the ability to determine that you can qualify and withstand higher rates than what you're getting. But then the other flip side of that, it also limits people's borrowing power, right? Some people want to get into a certain area in subdivision at a certain price, but because of that stress test, they're capped at a certain borrowing power. Well, if I was qualifying you at just at what your rate you were getting, you may have gotten into that higher purchase price and into that different home or that different area or subdivision. A part of me, I'm just going to go out on a whim and say this. Sometimes I've thought about it. In my opinion, it was like, if you were taking a fixed rate, say a 5-year fixed rate, maybe you don't need that stress test because you know you're locked and secured for that 5-year term on that mortgage. You know what I mean? There is no fluctuation. Maybe it's only implemented on a variable rate, which could fluctuate on you. So you're asking good questions. I'm just on the whim here, just thinking out loud. It's like, is it good? Yes, there's pros and cons to every situation. Did it impact a lot of people, especially in the last couple of years when you had rates in the 5s and 6s and you were qualifying at a stress test at 7, 8, upwards almost of 9%?
Yeah.
Like it's insanity. It's insanity, right? And it impacts people's borrowing power. And that's the difference of being approved, declined, this loan amount or not. Like that's the difference between a client going to an A bank at best rate versus an alternative B lender at higher rates and vice versa. And that may not even be for a B lender. You may not even qualify because of the stress test. And then we were looking at private lenders for you. So there's a lot of stuff to unravel of the volatility over the last few years coming out of the COVID era. So honestly, if anyone can sense my passion for this, I genuinely care. I love it. I wake up every day and it's like trying to help people. You know what I mean? Especially in this market, even more of a reward when you can help someone in this market.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring you in here, because you are passionate about it. You live it. And you breathe it every single day, and so we talk on a regular basis as well too. And you've done a lot for our clients over the years.
And your team, by the way, your team's amazing. Obviously, Gary, I love you, brother, but like your whole team behind you, you got good people around you that have the same vision and same work ethic as you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, and you as well too.
Thank you, man.
Let's move into the investor space.
Sure.
What are you seeing right now? Are they starting to wake up? Because I think you know this, and I know you do a lot of this as well too. We worked with a lot of real estate investors. I would almost say 80% of what I did was real estate investors. I'm not sure what your numbers were, maybe similar, maybe a little more, a little less. They've disappeared. Are they coming back? And the ones that are coming back, what do you see them doing?
Yeah, I would say coming out of the COVID era where rates were increasing and prices were super inflated, you definitely saw a stall and a lull there with the investors, but not just investors, the first-time home buyers, everything, right?
Yep.
Like just real estate as a whole.
Yep.
What you started to see pick up, especially for our office, was the commercial side of things, the multi-unit residential, where clients were going more unit type properties to offset the higher rates and stuff like that.
So 10 units and higher kind of thing, 8 units higher?
5 plus, okay. Right? Because you have to think about it. Let's call a spade here as well. When rates are higher and these prices have been inflated, it's very tough than the world that you were brought up, and even me 15 years ago, get into the mortgages. Like you can go buy a single family home and rent it out and you made money. It just worked, right? Prices were decent and all that.
The good old days.
And then that evolved to it's tighter. Duplexes, tighter, triplex, fourplex, vice versa. And once you start to get the 5 units and above, it goes commercial. So you saw an uptick in that. But back to your question, now you're starting to see the investors come back, especially now, not only just from numbers making sense because rates are at a half decent level and prices have come down, but you're also starting to see more municipalities, cities changing the ruling on adding additional units, laneway suites, garden suites. This is something our office was already seeing years ago, where you were having issues with banks saying, guys, you're not building more homes. You need to create more dwelling units on existing properties. Hence why we started with this program over the years that we have now unleashed to our clients. But we already saw that the laneway suites, the garden suites, the adding additional in-law suites, duplexes, triplexes was going to start to be a next big thing for people, right? And with that being said, you're seeing more clients looking at going to buy property where the land in the city allows to add additional units. And you're looking at clients calling over the last little while.
Yep.
I want to add another unit. I want to renovate. I want to do this. Yes, I would love to get into the market and go and buy, but there's also potential on my existing property to go and do this now. So you're starting to see the investors come back, A, from a purchase side, but two, from seeing what is also available to them to add cash flow, to create forced appreciation on their existing properties, which we haven't seen for the last couple of years. It's definitely been stagnant for sure.
Yeah. And, you join us on a lot of our property tours. We just recently did one out in Peterborough where now Peterborough is allowing 4 units. We're doing garden suites out there. And so those type of zoning changes, they're upzoning a single family home that you don't have to go in and do. And you also know as well too, we now do property tours in Toronto because those properties have been upzoned for you. So it's like buying a single family home. You don't have to go and do any zoning changes. They're already saying, hey, we've upzoned it for you. You're buying it at a single family price, and you can now convert it into a 5 unit, 6 unit. I think you can go as high as 7 units. Now, just because you can go that high doesn't mean you should. It just depends on the size of the home, right? But what a great opportunity that is for investors. And that's
half the battle of the zoning and getting the permits and getting that clearance to do that. They're saying, here, go, right? And you're starting to see whether it's lenders starting to get more accustomed to the way of changing of times and what's happening in the market. And you're getting municipalities and the cities and the bylaws and the government starting to realize, okay, let's go. Unfortunately, you and I, we're entrepreneurs. We forecast this, we see this, but you have to remember banks, government, all that, they still operate in the dinosaur archaic ages. It takes time for them to get with the times, but to see this happening in real time, this is something we've already forecasted from years ago. We knew we were going in this direction. Yeah,
for sure. Right? Now, I know when we were moving in this direction as well too, and we were some of the early adopters with the garden suites. How has that changed? Because we know that was an issue in the beginning. Has anything now adapted to that where you have a garden suite in the back and the bank in the beginning didn't really look at it? Are they looking at it now? Or are they giving it some additional value?
It was a massive hurdle going back the last couple of years. And I'd like to think we were one of the pioneers of vocalizing this to the financial institutions. Because what was the biggest hurdle back then was, okay, great. I own a house. I have the ability to put a laneway house or a garden suite, an ADU, some of that facet on my property. Well, what were lenders saying? They were going to get it appraised, and they're saying, we're not even factoring in a value there. We're not even allocating the rents that this thing is going to generate to the overall plot of land with the existing property in the ADU. So people are like, what the hell is this? This is crazy. We started to get one lender on board and 2, and now it's becoming more of a normal thing now with the lenders to entertain it. But still, there still is a lot of pushback with the lenders. You have to remember, yes, we all talk about the big 6 banks, the monopoly, they control everything and all of that. But you have to remember, not all banks qualify you the same. They all have different rules, different underwriting, different criteria. It's understanding of working with someone like myself or a professional to know the ins and outs over here. Because especially with something like that, imagine you go and throw a garden suite and you're not getting a top value based on market, or they're not allocating the rents towards you. That's the difference of you being able to refinance, pull out a couple $100,000 to nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And imagine you got to go do all this heavy lifting and try to deal with all these different lenders and people like that. You have to remember, when you're dealing with someone at the bank, they're not an investor specialist. They're not looking to try to figure out ways to get what you're trying to do accomplished. who are they? They work for a bank. They're not looking for your best interest. If you're not fitting their imaginary box, they say no. Well, we don't operate that way. And this was something we vocalized with the lender saying, this is coming, it's happening, i.e. our Investors Edge program. That's one of our multi kind of mortgage solution programs that we ironclad built with these banks, is because we saw this. People are going to want to build and do these things. You got to determine the value. You got to determine the rents it's going to generate. You know what I mean? Yeah. We know short-term Airbnbs is a big thing, but so many people get pigeonholed on that because this property can gross $100,000 a year and you're deeming it as a single family rental that gets $2,200 a month. Like, no, that doesn't work. Right. You got to look at stuff like this.
And this is why this is so important. It's such a great conversation because, listen, Bank of Montreal, TD Bank, Royal Bank, whichever one of the major five that you like, phenomenal, great, happy. However, you want to use a mortgage broker because you have access to those banks as well too. Right. And depending on what you're doing when it comes to refinancing, or maybe you're building a portfolio or whatever it is, you now have access to those banks. Plus, how many more banks do you have access to? Right. So now you can put them into what they need to be put into based on what they're trying to build.
Well, here's another thing, right? And I don't know if we mentioned it on the first episode, was we have access to more lenders than any other broker in this country. That's number one. So when my team and I underwrite your file, we're looking at it out of the lens. Where do you fit with this bank, this bank, this bank, this bank? And we want to provide options. We're not selling you mortgages. We're not selling you interest rates. We're here to create solutions and provide options. That is it. And why not work with someone who has access to more lenders and more options? What's the other big thing? You've been around the block working with a lot of investors. You get to a certain point where banks just tell you no. A, you don't qualify. 2, you have too many properties, and you're just like, okay, what's next? B lenders, private lenders? How does that make sense?
Right.
So another outlet we have with one of our big 6 bank lending options is, you know what? We're listening to you. We know you have a big client base of investors. We don't want you to get handcuffed anymore. We will allow to qualify up to 40 units. 40 units, ladies and gentlemen. Most banks typically cap you at maybe 5 to 10 properties before they give you the 2 middle fingers. Now we're ability to get out of that. And that's why we named that program Scale Break. Break out of big bank jail. You have capital, you have cash, you've done well with your investments in real estate. You want to continue to grow. Now there's a solution for you.
That's awesome. Right? I love to hear that. Let's touch on CMHC MLI Select program. I want to touch on that. What is that program? And let's talk through an example of, let's say now we're talking about this opportunity that we have, 20 unit deal. It's 20 units. It's not being efficiently run, but there is forced appreciation that you got to go in there. You've got to clean up some of the units, and maybe put in hydro for each of the units to now get it to a point that where it's like, okay, this is a great property. Walk me through that whole entire process for an investor. Could you use CMHC or the MLI Select program at the beginning, or is that something that you have to do at the end with a property similar to what I just mentioned?
So you're just segue down, complete right turn down a different path of real estate over here. So the best way that I'm going to explain this, and I'm going to try to break it down simply, is once you get into 5 units and above, you start to fall under the commercial category of lending, right? Yes, there is commercial, industrial, storefront, stuff like that. But for what you're talking about, CMHC, MLI Select, this is specifically geared to multi-unit residential over 5 units. Now, the cool thing about CMHC and MLI Select, under their program, there's 2 categories. There's regular CMHC, and then there's CMHC MLI Select. Now, standard CMHC, you can still get extended amortizations. You can get insured rates and pricing. CMHC MLI Select, there's a point scale behind it from a qualification standpoint. And it's one of 3 categories: affordable rents, energy efficiency, or accessibility, like wheelchair access, stuff like that. So if anyone is listening to this podcast, you can literally Google it and they will give you, it's all online. It's all free, available to you to understand how this works. But let's kick it up a notch, because so many clients on a weekly basis, we work with a lot of commercial and investors that want to get into this space. I want to go buy this. For example, the property that you showed me, the 20 unit over here. Great property, great potential. So we have to understand how commercial works on the residential side. It is not heavily based on you, the applicant, anymore. Like when you buy 4 units and above and qualifying with a bank, it's heavily weighted on your credit, your income, stuff like that, and the property you're buying. Well, the second you get into the multi-unit commercial side of things, it's more shifted on how does that property perform? It's more heavily weighted on the performance of the property, right? Now, a lot of these great opportunities available in this country, 7 units, 10 units. We've done projects, 180 unit apartment buildings and so on and so forth. It's all about the performance. Now, when an opportunity like what you presented comes up, it's a great opportunity, but the performance is not fully to the standard of where it's going to fit these metrics.
Right.
Like without going into detail on this property, it fits CMHC, but it needs a bigger down payment in order to qualify with the metrics because of the rents that it's generating and how it's performing today. And then does a property have affordable rents for half the building? Does it fit that box? Then you get allocated a scoring system. Energy efficiency. Well, if it's an older building, how's it going to be energy efficient? You know what I mean? So to fit that program, it is tough. So what a lot of clients do is maybe they lock up that property, they secure whether it's Schedule A bank financing, standard CMHC, or even go private lender for the short term. Get the property up to scratch, whether it's cash for keys, boost the rents, lipstick renovations, whatever it is, and then get the property to fit either the MLI select aspect of things or get it to a standard CMHC approach with still a longer amortization and better rates. People need to understand commercial multi-unit residential is a great vehicle, but it's a different world. You have to understand the way that it works. You obviously need more capital, higher purchase prices in most cases. Appraisals get more expensive, lawyer costs get more expensive. There's fees dealing with the lender, but you're also talking about a bigger, larger scale type entity asset here, right?
Now, when you get it to that place of where you can now qualify for the CMHC MLI Select program, what is the LTV?
Oh man!
At a really, you know what I mean? Like are they going up to 95%?
Yes,
which is incredible.
It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's incredible. And you can not only just the loan to value, if it fits the metric, they will allow you up to a 50-year amortization, which is huge when it comes to a cash flow perspective too, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds easy, guys. Like call me, reach out to my office. We can vet deals if you're interested in stuff like that. But yes, I'll be honest, Gary, right here on camera, it's tough to go and find something available in the market and it just fits everything to a T. People need to know going into these types of deals, there could be some other work that needs to be done to get it there.
Right.
And that's why strategy and structure and game planning is crucial with your realtor, with your contractors, with your finance person. It's putting a plan in place because in my honest opinion, it's not, the acquisition is crucial, but it's also the exit. You got to plan for the exit strategy on what you're trying to accomplish when it's all said and done.
Awesome. Mike, we are pretty much at the end here. Give me your bird's eye view in less than a minute of the future of real estate and what your thoughts are, where things are going.
At the end of the day, if you woke up today, it's been a good day. Every day above ground is a good day.
Love that.
100%. And I will always believe in real estate. Peaks and valleys. We talked about it earlier on the episode, and the strong will persevere 100%. There's opportunity. Quote Warren Buffett, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you take opportunity and you jump into the market. But I truly believe you need to surround yourself by good, genuine, honest people who have been around the block, who have seen it on a day-to-day basis. Seek guidance from people that have been through it. Genuine, honest people. Your real estate agent and your team is huge. Your finance person is huge. Your lawyer, it's all a team effort over here to get you one step closer to financial freedom or get you into the market. Surround yourself with good people.
Awesome.
And there are good people still left in this world.
Michael, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this conversation. And if I'm going to finish it off with one tip, use a mortgage agent, all right? Because a mortgage agent can get you to where you're trying to get you. And I'll show you with this last piece of advice and a great quote that I learned from Jim Rohn is, make the goal to become a millionaire, not for the money, but for the person you'll become to achieve it. Michael, Love
Thank
it, brother.
you, brother. Thank you
you.
for having me, man.
All right, man. All right, guys. Take care.